The ruins and the voice. The city was dead. The human walked slowly through the broken streets, his boots pressing against ashes and stone. Around him stood the remains of tall buildings, blackened and hollow, like skeletons reaching for the sky. Smoke still curled from cracks in the walls. The air was heavy with dust, and every step echoed too loud in the silence. He had seen many destroyed worlds, but this one felt different. The ruins carried a strange sadness, as if the city itself remembered the screams of its people. His visor showed no signs of life, no movement, no heat, just cold ruins. The human raised his weapon and moved carefully. He was not here for treasure, not even for orders. He was here because of curiosity, and maybe guilt. His people had fought wars with many alien races. Some they destroyed, some they saved. He was never sure if this planet had been an enemy or a friend. A sudden sound made him stop. It was soft. Too soft. The human froze, holding his breath. His eyes scanned the broken road ahead. Nothing, only shadows and broken glass. Then it came again, so faint he almost thought it was the wind. A voice. A tiny voice. "Please." His heart jumped. No, it could not be. No one should be alive here. The human turned slowly, searching. His helmet speakers picked up the faintest sound again. This time it was clearer. "Please, take me and Mama. Human." The human's chest tightened. Someone was here. Someone small. And they knew what he was. He moved carefully toward the sound, his weapon ready. Broken walls closed in around him, forming narrow passages. He could hear his own breathing, heavy inside the helmet. The voice had been weak, almost broken, but it carried a strange echo in the ruins. "Who's there?" he asked, his voice low. No answer. He stepped deeper into the shadows. His visor flickered, trying to catch a signal. For one second, a red dot blinked on his screen, a heat source, small, fragile. Then it disappeared. The human crouched near a pile of fallen stone. He pushed aside a piece of metal, and dust swirled into the air. Behind the rubble, in a narrow gap, two glowing eyes stared back at him. A child. Alien. She was small, maybe 6 or 7 years old in human measure. Her skin was pale with faint silver lines that glowed softly in the dark. Her clothes were torn, covered in ash. She trembled as she looked at him, clutching something to her chest. The human's first instinct was to raise his weapon. His training whispered, "Be careful. It could be a trap." But his heart hesitated. The child's lips moved. Her voice was thin, weak, almost like a whisper carried by the ruins themselves. "Please, take me and Mama. Human." The words echoed, haunting in the silence. The human lowered his weapon, confused and shaken. How did she know his kind? Why was she calling for him when humans had been destroyers to many worlds? He looked closer. She was crying, but no tears fell. Her species did not weep like humans. Yet the pain was clear in her trembling body. "Where is your mother?" he asked gently. The child pointed deeper into the ruins. Her small hand shook as she raised her finger toward the shadows. The human followed her gesture. Somewhere in the distance, through cracks of broken stone, he saw movement, a faint figure lying still. The child's eyes glowed again, desperate, pleading. "Please," she whispered, "help us, before they come back." The human's heart pounded. Before who comes back? The silence of the ruins suddenly felt heavy. Danger was close. The child had given him no answers, only more questions. Yet her tiny voice had pierced the dead city like a knife. And he knew. His mission had just changed. The hidden survivors. The ruins whispered with silence. The human followed the child slowly, each step careful on the broken stones. She walked barefoot, her small feet making no sound, as if she had learned to move like a shadow. Her glowing eyes guided him through the shattered halls of what once looked like a great tower. The walls bent inward, burned and scarred, as if fire had eaten them alive. The human's thoughts raced. A child. Alive. Her mother, too. It made no sense. His visor had shown no life signals when he first entered. Yet here she was, leading him deeper into the dark, deeper into danger. He whispered, "Are you sure it's safe?" The child did not answer. She only looked back once, her face pale with fear. Then she placed a finger over her lips, asking for silence. The human obeyed. They moved through a long corridor, the ceiling cracked and broken. Strange marks covered the walls, black scars from weapons he did not recognize. At times, the human felt the ground tremble under his boots. Was it his imagination, or was something moving above them? The child suddenly stopped. She turned, listening. Her ears, long and thin, shifted slightly, catching sounds he could not hear. Her body stiffened. The human tightened his grip on his weapon. "What is it?" he whispered. She looked up toward the broken ceiling, her eyes wide. Her voice was almost too soft to hear. "They are still here." The human froze. His chest grew tight. Enemies. Whoever had destroyed this city was not gone. The child tugged at his hand and pulled him quickly forward. They ducked under a collapsed beam, slipping into a narrow passage half hidden by rubble. Dust filled his visor as they crawled through the tight space. The child moved fast, used to these secret ways. The human followed, heavy and armored, every move sending echoes of stone shifting. At last, they reached a larger sea, amber. It was dark, but the air smelled different, less burned, less bitter. And there, in the center, lay a figure on the ground. The mother. She was tall compared to the child, her silver-lined skin glowing faintly. But her body was broken. Deep wounds ran across her chest, and her breathing was weak, ragged. She held a piece of metal like a weapon, though it shook in her hands. When she saw the human, her eyes narrowed. She tried to rise, but her body betrayed her. The child rushed to her side and pressed against her arm. "Mama, it's okay," the little one said softly. "He is human. He came." The mother coughed, her voice rough and full of pain. "Human." Her eyes burned with both hate and hope. "Why are you here?" The human lowered his weapon. "I heard your daughter's voice. I thought no one was alive." The mother tried to sit up, but the effort forced a cry from her lips. Her child held her close, whispering comfort. "They destroyed us," the mother said weakly. "All of us. Only she and I remain. They will return soon." The human's heart sank. He wanted to ask who, but before the words left his mouth, a sound cut through the chamber. A low, mechanical hum. The human turned sharply. Through cracks in the ruined walls, red lights blinked. Small, spider-like machines crawled across the ceiling outside. Their metal legs clattered against stone. Searchers. The mother's eyes widened with terror. "They are here." The child pressed her face into her mother's chest, trembling. The human raised his weapon, his finger tense on the trigger. The machines outside clicked and scanned the ruins, searching. One of them stopped near the opening. Its red eye glowed brighter, sweeping across the shadows. The human held his breath. The mother did not move. The child's tiny hands squeezed tight around her mother's arm. The red light stopped. It pointed toward them. The spider machine let out a sharp sound, like metal screaming. The human's heart thundered. The enemies knew. They were not hidden anymore. The silence of the ruins was broken at last. The mother's plea. The red eye glowed brighter, cutting across the broken chamber. The human pressed his back to the wall, weapon raised. His finger hovered over the trigger. One shot, and the spider machine would fall. But the sound would bring more. He could feel them, waiting in the ruins above, crawling, listening. The mother's weak voice broke the silence. "Do not fire," she whispered. "Not yet." The human glanced at her. She was pale, her glowing silver lines dimming with every breath. The child clung to her tightly, her small body trembling like a leaf in the wind. The spider machine paused at the crack in the wall. Its red eye scanned once more. Then, slowly, it crawled past, its legs clattering against stone until the sound faded. The chamber was silent again. The human lowered his weapon slightly, but his heart still raced. They were searching. They know survivors may be here, he said quietly. The mother nodded. Her voice was weak but steady. Yes, they will not stop until all life is gone. The child looked up at her mother with wide, fearful eyes. Mama, will they find us? The mother's hands shook as she touched the child's face. Not if he helps us, she said, her eyes turning to the human. Not if he chooses. The human frowned. Choose what? To save her, the mother whispered. She is the last of our kind. If she dies, my people are gone forever. The words struck deep. The human looked at the child. Her glowing eyes stared back, full of innocence and fear. She was too small to carry such a heavy truth. He hesitated. His training had taught him to stay apart, to follow orders, to never carry burdens that were not his own. But standing in the ruins, looking at the trembling child, he felt something shift inside. The mother coughed, blood shining faintly against her silver skin. Human, you and your kind have destroyed much. You have aching worlds, broken families. But here you can give back, protect her. Take her away from this place. Do not let her end here. The human said nothing at first. He only stared at her wounds, at the way her body shook with each breath. She was strong, even in her last moments, but he could see the truth. She would not survive much longer. The child pressed her face against her mother's chest. No, Mama, don't say that. You will come with us. The mother smiled faintly, though her eyes glistened with pain. Little star, I cannot. But you must live. You must see the stars again. Promise me. The child shook her head, tears that did not fall shimmering in her glowing eyes. I don't want to leave you. The human felt his chest tighten. The room was too heavy with sadness, and outside the ruins still crawled with danger. Yet in this broken place, a mother's love burned brighter than the fires that had destroyed her city. The mother turned her eyes back to him. They were sharp, piercing, filled with something more than fear, something close to hope. Will you do it, human? Will you carry her when I no longer can? The human hesitated, his mind fighting his heart. He remembered the wars, the destruction, the way his people were often the monsters in other stories. Why should he save her? Why should he risk his life for a child that was not his? But then he heard it again, the child's tiny voice. Please, human, please take me and Mama. The same words that had drawn him into the ruins, the same words that had broken the silence of a dead city. The human took a slow breath. He lowered his weapon and knelt beside them. I will protect her, he said quietly. I give you my word. The mother closed her eyes, relief softening her face. Her hand touched the child's hair one last time. Then there is hope, she whispered. Before the human could say more, the ground, it above them trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling, the sound of metal legs clattered closer, louder. The enemies were returning. The human rose to his feet, his weapon ready once again. The child held tightly to his leg, her glowing eyes wide with fear. The mother's final words echoed in the chamber as the shadows closed in. Protect her, human. She is all that remains. The enemy returns. The chamber shook as if the ruins themselves were alive. The human felt the vibration travel through the stone floor and up his legs. Dust rained down from the cracked ceiling. The sound was clear now, metal scraping, claws striking against broken stone, heavy and sharp. The enemies were moving closer. The child pressed herself against him, her tiny hands clutching his armor. Her glowing eyes were wide, her lips trembling as she tried not to make a sound. The mother lay against the wall, breathing hard, her body too weak to rise. The human's instincts screamed at him. They had to move. He leaned down. "Is there another way out?" he asked quickly. The mother raised a shaking hand, pointing to a narrow passage half hidden behind fallen stone. Her voice was weak but certain. "That tunnel. It leads to the old streets. But they will be there too." The human nodded. Danger was everywhere, but staying here meant death. He moved toward the tunnel, but the sound above grew louder. A shadow passed over the cracks in the ceiling. Red lights pierced through, searching. The human pulled the child close, holding her against his chest. "Stay quiet," he whispered. A loud crash split the air. Part of the ceiling gave way as one of the spider machines dropped into the chamber. Its legs struck the floor with a metallic clang, sharp and cold. Its red eye glowed like fire as it turned toward them. The child gasped, a soft cry escaping her lips. The machine let out a high-pitched shriek. The human fired. The blast from his weapon tore through the silence, striking the machine in its central body. Sparks exploded, and the creature fell, twitching and burning. But the sound echoed too far, too loud. From above, more metal screams answered. The mother's eyes widened. "They know now. All of them will come." The human turned back to her. He saw the truth in her face. She would not make it far. But there was no time to argue. He grabbed her arm and pulled her up with all the strength he had. "Move!" She stumbled, nearly falling, but he supported her weight. The child stayed close, her small steps fast and desperate. Together they rushed into the tunnel. Behind them, the chamber filled with noise. More machines crawled in, their legs scraping, their red eyes glowing like a storm of fire. The tunnel was dark and narrow. The human's armor scraped against the stone as he pushed forward. The child breathed fast against his chest. Behind them, the mother coughed, each sound weaker than the last. Then the first machine entered the tunnel. Its claws struck sparks against the stone as it chased them. The human fired again. The blast shook the passage, collapsing part of the ceiling. Stones crashed down, blocking the path behind them. The machine screamed once, then was buried under rubble. Silence. For a moment, but the silence was short. On the other side of the rubble, more machines clattered, their claws digging through the stones. The wall would not hold long. The human pushed harder, carrying the child and half dragging the mother. His mind screamed at him, "Faster, faster!" Finally, they reached the end of the tunnel. A broken opening led into the ruined streets. The night sky stretched above, filled with smoke and ash. Fires burned in the distance, and there, scattered across the rooftops, he saw them. Dozens of spider machines, red eyes glowing in the dark. The child whimpered. The mother's hand tightened weakly on his arm. The human raised his weapon again, his breath heavy inside the helmet. The enemy had returned, not as one, but as many. The ruins were alive with their hunt. And now, there was nowhere left to hide. Flight through the ruins, the night burned red with the eyes of the machines. The human held his weapon high, scanning the rooftops. The child clung to him, her small body trembling, while the mother leaned weakly against his side. The ruins stretched before them, a maze of broken walls and fallen towers. Every shadow looked alive, every sound a warning. Then the silence shattered. A scream of metal cut through the air. The first spider machine leapt from the roof, its sharp legs striking the ground with a crash. More followed, crawling down walls, sliding through cracks, filling the streets with red light. "They're here!" the child cried. The human wasted no time. He pulled the mother close and ran, his boots pounding against the broken stones. The machines gave chase, their legs clattering like drums of war. The street twisted left, then right, rubble blocking the path. The human leapt over fallen beams, dragging the mother when she stumbled. Behind them, claws scraped against stone. Sparks flew as the machines closed in. The child's voice trembled in his ear. "They're faster than us." "I know," the human growled, forcing his body to move faster. "Hold on." A machine leapt in front of them, its red eye glowing bright. The human raised his weapon and fired. The blast cut through the dark, smashing the machine into pieces. Smoke and sparks filled the street, but the path was open. They ran again. The mother coughed, her voice weak but urgent. To the east. An old transport hub. If it still stands, you may escape through there. The human nodded, though doubt clawed at him. Nothing here looked strong enough to hold. Still, it was their only chance. The machines behind them screamed louder. More shapes dropped from above. Shadows raced along the walls, faster and closer. One landed just behind them, its claws scraping against the stones. The human spun and kicked hard, sending it crashing into the rubble. Another leapt forward. He fired again, the blast echoing through the night. But for every one that fell, 3 more appeared. The ruins turned into a battlefield. They reached a collapsed bridge. Half of it had crumbled into the abyss below. The human stopped for a heartbeat, scanning the gap. The other side was barely reachable. "We can't," the mother began. "We can," he cut her off. He pulled the child close, holding her tight. Then, with a deep breath, he jumped. His boots struck the far side, the impact almost breaking his legs. The child cried out, but he held her safe. The mother tried to follow, stumbling at the edge. She was too weak. The human turned, his heart racing. "Jump! Now!" The machines were already on the bridge, their red eyes glowing like fire. The mother looked back at them, then forward at him. Her lips trembled. She jumped. The human caught her arm, pulling her up just as the first machine leapt. The bridge cracked, stones falling into the dark. The machine plunged with them, its scream fading into the abyss. The mother collapsed against the ground, coughing hard. Her strength was nearly gone, but there was no time to rest. The machines were still coming. The human dragged them both forward again. Fires burned higher in the distance, and through the smoke he saw it, the remains of the transport hub. A massive gate stood crooked, half buried in rubble, but behind it lay tunnels that might lead underground. Hope. He pushed harder, ignoring the pain in his legs, ignoring the weight of fear pressing against his chest. The machines screamed behind them, the sound growing closer and closer. The child looked up at him with wide, glowing eyes. "Will we make it, human?" The human tightened his grip on her small hand. He did not answer, because he did not know. The choice. The broken transport hub loomed ahead, a shadow of metal and stone. Its gates leaned sideways, half buried under rubble, but behind them stretched a tunnel that seemed endless. The human pulled the mother and child toward it, his breath heavy inside his helmet. His body ached from the chase, but he forced himself forward. He could hear the machines behind them, crawling fast across the ruins. Their claws clattered like thunder, their red eyes glowing brighter with every second. They reached the gate. The human kicked aside fallen beams, clearing a narrow opening. He pushed the child through first, then helped the mother crawl inside. The tunnel swallowed them in darkness, damp and cold. For a moment it felt safe, but the mother collapsed against the wall, gasping for air. Her wounds glowed faintly, silver light leaking through her skin. The child fell to her knees beside her, clutching her hand. "Mama, please," the child whispered. "You must keep going." The mother shook her head slowly. Her breathing was shallow, her voice a fragile whisper. "I cannot. My body is broken. My time is ending." The human knelt beside her, his weapon still ready. "We can move together. I'll carry you if I must." The mother's eyes met his. They were sharp, filled with both pain and peace. "No, human, you cannot carry us both. The machines are too many. They will catch you. You must choose." The words struck like a blade. The human froze, torn between instinct and duty. The child clung tighter to her mother. "No, don't say that. We'll all go together." The mother touched the child's face with trembling fingers. "Little star, listen to me. You must live. You are the last of our kind. If you survive, then we survive. Promise me, you will go." Tears that were not tears shimmered in the child's glowing eyes. "But I can't leave you, Mama. Please don't make me," the human felt his throat tighten. He had seen death before. Soldiers, civilians, entire worlds consumed by war. But this was different. Here was a mother, begging not for herself, but for the future of her child. The ground shook. The tunnel echoed with metal screams. The machines were inside. The mother's eyes turned back to him. You gave me your word, human. Protect her. Take her away. Do not let her fall. The human clenched his fists. His heart screamed to argue, but his mind knew she was right. If he tried to save them both, they would all die. The mother coughed, blood glimmering silver on her lips. Her voice grew softer. I will slow them down. Take her. Go. The child cried out, clutching her hand desperately. No, Mama, please, don't leave me. The mother smiled faintly, though pain clouded her face. You will see the stars again, little one. That is enough for me. The human felt the weight of her words press against him. He reached out and gently pulled the child into his arms. She fought at first, twisting, crying, but he held her firm. The mother pushed herself against the wall, lifting the broken piece of metal she had used as a weapon. Her hands shook, but her eyes burned with fire. Go, she whispered. The tunnel filled with the clatter of claws. Red light spilled across the walls. The machines were coming fast. The human turned away, carrying the struggling child down the dark passage. Her cries echoed behind him, her small hands reaching for her mother. And behind them, the mother's voice rose one last time. Not weak now, but strong, filled with defiance. Come then, monsters! The sound of her scream, the clash of metal, the fire of battle, then silence. The human did not look back. His heart ached, his chest heavy, but he kept moving, the child pressed against him, because he had made a promise. And now the mother's sacrifice was his, burden to carry, humanity's echo. The tunnel stretched on, cold and endless. The human ran, his boots striking the stone floor in heavy rhythm. In his arms, the child trembled, her tiny hands gripping his armor as if she would never let go. Behind them, the sounds of battle had faded. The mother's last cry still echoed in his ears, burning like fire in his chest. The machines had taken her, but her sacrifice had bought them time. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber. Rusted rails cut across the floor, leading to what was once a transport station. Broken vehicles lay scattered, half buried in ash. Above, cracks in the ceiling revealed the smoky night sky. The human lowered the child to the ground. She stumbled, her glowing eyes wide with sorrow. She turned back toward the dark passage, as if hoping her mother would appear. But the silence was final. She's gone, the child whispered, her voice thin and trembling. The human crouched beside her. She gave everything so you could live. Tears that were not tears shimmered in her glowing eyes. Why? Why do humans save us now, when before you destroyed so many? The human's throat tightened. He had no answer, only the weight of his guilt. His people had been destroyers, yes, they had left many ruins behind. Perhaps this was one of them. Perhaps not. But here, in this moment, none of it mattered. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Because she asked me, and because you deserve to live. The child sniffled, staring at him with a mixture of confusion and trust. Slowly, she nodded. A sudden screech pierced the chamber. Red lights flickered in the shadows. The machines had followed. The human rose, pulling the child close again. His weapon hummed with power as he aimed at the tunnel. Dozens of glowing red eyes appeared in the dark, crawling forward like a storm. No escape, he muttered under his breath. Then his vist, or blinked, signal detected. A faint beacon pulsed from above, through the cracks in the ceiling. His ship. He had left it hidden on the cliffs beyond the city. The beacon was weak, but it was there. Hope. The human turned to the child. Hold on to me. Don't let go. She wrapped her arms around his neck. Her voice was tiny, but firm. I won't. He sprinted across the chamber, firing behind him. Energy blasts lit the dark, smashing into machines that crawled from the tunnel. Sparks exploded, metal screeched, but more kept coming. He leapt onto the broken rail, then onto a fallen vehicle, climbing toward the hole in the ceiling where faint starlight shone through. The child held tight, her face buried against his chest. The machine screamed, filling the chamber. Claws struck the walls, climbing fast. The human reached the opening and hauled himself through, lungs burning. Cool night air hit his face. Above, the sky stretched wide, the stars faint through smoke. And there, hidden behind the cliffs, his ship waited. He ran, every muscle screaming in pain, every breath a battle. Behind them, machines poured from the ruins, chasing with endless hunger. The ramp of the ship lowered as he approached. He rushed inside, slamming the controls. Engines roared, shaking the ground. The child clung to him as the ship lifted, breaking free from the ruins below. Through the window, the city burned. Red eyes swarmed across the ruins like fireflies of death. Somewhere in that fire lay the mother's last stand. The child pressed her glowing face against the glass, whispering softly, "Goodbye, Mama." The human stood behind her, silent. His heart was heavy, yet something stirred within him, a memory of her words, a plea, a promise. He looked down at the child. She was small, fragile, yet in her eyes burned a light stronger than the machines, stronger than war. In that moment, he understood. She was not just a survivor, she was hope, the last voice of her people, and now she was his responsibility. The stars stretched out before them, endless and silent. The child turned to him, her voice soft but clear. "Thank you, human." The words echoed in the quiet cabin, simple yet eternal. The human placed a hand over his chest where her mother's plea still weighed heavy. In the silence of the stars, her tiny voice echoed again and again in his heart. And he knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning.